Old Nation, welcome to a New Year's Eve or new visits special that we got right here. Just hit 3,000 subscribers, so I wanted to invite my bunch of my friends. Of course, I've got my co-host that's with me here every Tuesday, Deshaun Adams 18. Deshaun Adams 18. He runs the Daily Chop. Make sure you THA Daily Chop. You go check out that. Got my friend Vince, VC Knoll on Twitter, as well as the Garnet and Old channel right here on YouTube. Make sure you go follow him. James is with us. He just popped off. He's got some stuff going on at the house, but he's going to be back and in and out throughout the show. Maybe some more friends. Jen will probably pop in and say Happy New Year's on a day that has been a ton of fun. If you see the thumbnail, you see that Florida State has stayed hot on the trail. We got some big visits, a bunch, probably 8 or 9 portal visits coming up in the next 2 or 3 days, as well as 3 or 4 big-time high school visits that they've got lined up. So it's going to be a real fun show. We're going to get all that information to you. But as we wait on people to roll in here to get the information, let's just go ahead and talk about the narrative from Kirk Herbstreit and the college football playoff and how fun it has been for the Lunatic Fringe to end 2024 as we watch Michigan take it to Alabama, and then that banger of a game, probably the best game of the bowl season, Illinois versus South Carolina, as 2 out of the 3 of Kirk's teams have now been eliminated in bowl season. Michigan missing 4 of their first-round draft picks, the 4 best players on their team. Illinois, I think, lost their quarterback or something halfway through the game, or I might have that confused. But, yeah, very hilarious stuff. Kirk literally came on there and said, "Oh, y'all are spreading BS narratives," and got community noted on Twitter. He literally got community noted. People are posting the video where he said Illinois shouldn't have been in, an Illinois team that beat Michigan. And somebody said, I can't remember who tweeted. I wish I could give them credit, but they're like, is it better to beat nobody or to lose to nobody? How's it going? What's up, Deshaun?
How you doing, Vince? Doing well, man.
Good. I'm good.
All right. That's good, man. Enjoying your holidays? How's everything been?
No, man, everything's been great. You know, the holiday time is the great time. I'm fortunate enough to be able to take a lot of time off, which is nice. I know not a lot of people can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to spend time with the family. My daughter graduated from Florida State a few weeks ago. So we got a legacy. My legacy just walked the stage. So
awesome.
So yeah, it's been great. How about you?
Oh, fine, man. Same here. As far as holidays, everything went well with the kids and stuff. Got what they wanted. Wife enjoyed her time, just spending family time. As soon as I get off here with you guys tonight, I plan on hitting a couple of vices and enjoying the rest of my night. You know, I got the rum lined up and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, I told Deshaun, I was sitting here talking to him about my journey to sobriety, and he said, piss on that. We're going to have some fun tonight when I got off. As James pops back in the chat, how we doing, man? Our Gator Bowl representative, he's got a big game coming up tomorrow. It's in his name, Big Game James. Also, Domo, the national team, he's got B5 and all them boys fired up. How's it going, man? I know you've been having fun on your show and fun with all the stuff on the timeline today, bro.
Yeah, man, show is my outlet. That's how I keep from going crazy because I got a lot of other stuff going on, man. The 7v7 organizations, you know, it's definitely a journey. It's a fun process of making people mad that I didn't even know existed. Just like I'm finding out that people, you know, again, it's just doing good, trying to do good with the community through my foundation and some stuff like that. But holiday season. End of the year, man, just, you know, I got lacrosse season, so I'm rocking I'm orange and green in high school during the fall. I'm blue and orange, and, you know, sorry, but it's lacrosse. It's bowls. And our gear.
Take it easy. Take it easy. It's not no Florida shit.
Yeah, our gear is so dope. Like I got a box of Nike Bulls gear just about to arrive at my door. That's how they do it. So, but yeah, man, just in the Gator Bowl. So wrapping up the year, you know, we do a lot of stuff for the community with the Gator Bowl, and I do my bowl game show every once a week with Greg McGarity. So it's kind of cool to see my second year seeing these things come to fruition. I'm not gonna hold you. The bowl game actually sucks for the picks that we got, but the environment in the actual game is gonna be cool. So tomorrow I'm gonna do my show around 1 or 2. So if anybody's still interested in trying to, you want to come to Jacksonville, get some Mac Daddy tickets. I mean, my tickets are all you can eat, all you can drink. You get a little band, you get a ticket in the damn stadium. You can go back and forth, and it's well liquor. I mean, my bad, George, but it's Wells. But but the food is like really good. Like they got like shrimp, they got charcuterie, wings, they got prime rib, they got the fettuccine stations. They got like all it's like really like I be feeling like I shouldn't be here. I can't afford to be in this place, but luckily I get those tickets for free. So, but for people, I always like to give away stuff on the show. But man, just
you got to check my calendar.
2025, hopefully 2025 from a Florida State perspective is exponentially better than 2024. But it's kind of hard to go lower when you go up. So, the people's attorney.
Look at this guy.
Man, look at Doug, man, dressed to the nines.
Oh,
my goodness.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year.
It's party time.
Man, I mean, I wanted to get you up here. We're supposed to have you this Friday to get into the law stuff, but figured for the special I'd invite all my friends and get a big time booster's point of view on all the momentum and stuff. So this is a lot of fun, man.
We're excited for you, George. 3,000 is a huge deal, and to do it right before the end of the year, that's fantastic for you guys. And we're just so happy to see everything that your channel's been able to do this year and bringing your perspective and your voice. And so I'd love the opportunity to hop on for a few minutes and say hi and celebrate with y'all.
Hell yeah. Well, real quick, because we're getting full in here, might as well start getting all these transfers and all that shit. Anything you got going on and just your thoughts on what went on with the college football stuff today?
Yeah, man, I hopped on with TJ a little bit earlier today and talked about the Coach Hamilton lawsuit and everything going on with NIL. This is going to get real sloppy real fast, unfortunately. They're suing Coach Hamilton individually, not as a member of the Florida State administration. And what's interesting there is that they're trying to say that what Coach Hamilton was doing was way outside of his normal duties and what the NCAA allows, and making promises. And because of that, they can go after him and sue him personally instead of him being protected as an admin of Florida State and having immunity. So that's going to be the first real big question to see how the courts handle that. But it's just messy, when the players say we were promised X and you didn't deliver. We made fun of Gators and Rashada and all the other situations where there was NIL promises that weren't made, and we don't want to be on that list. So this did have to do with Rising Spear, our last collective, not the Battle's End. So I want to make that very clear. Hopefully this is all in the past and our current and future collectives are doing what they say they're going to do with the athletes, but it's less than ideal for this to be out in the news right now.
Hey, and Darren Heitner, how can we get his bar, like not the bar, what do you call it, his license revoked? Because he's worse than an ambulance chaser. I feel bad that I even put him on the scene.
Look, like the reality is that the bar is so limp-wristed. I don't know about Florida, but Georgia, absolutely. Unless you literally are stealing money from your clients, the bar doesn't care. They just want to make sure that they're getting your dues, and they want to make sure that they're the gatekeepers to the profession. But you have to do some really bad stuff for the bar to ever step in.
Teaching NIL in Miami and going after UF and FSU. It's pretty funny. Go ahead, James. My bad.
He got mad because I retweeted. And I know Darren, but he got mad because I retweeted him talking about you don't have a case without a contract with a coach. And now he's trying to go after guys that didn't have a contract. It was all verbals, even though in Florida, a verbal contract is technically binding, but you have to like really be able to prove that you really had something. And
we talked about that. We talked about that in the video. A contract is a promise and an acceptance of that promise, and then consideration. And if there's a failure in the contract, that consideration is where the contract is going to come up short. But they're also going over what's called fraudulent inducement and promissory estoppel. These players, once they were told we're going to get you the money, they stuck around and played Duke. They stuck around and played the rest of the season. That's just as viable a claim as this allegation of a breach of contract. So it's fascinating. But again, the first question is, was Leonard Hamilton an employee and an agent of Florida State, or was he acting on his own, making him liable individually?
And why are these players asking for money when they suck?
Oh boy, got dumped by Angel Reese.
Welcome to NIL.
I'm going for NBA All-Stars only. My God. All right, y'all. So I want to get everybody's opinion while you're here. So I want to go ahead and get into these portal guys. Running back is a big one. A lot of talent on this team. We watched multiple running backs leave and go play behind better offensive lines and have good success, whether it's Rodney Hill at Arkansas or CJ Campbell at FAU, and now he's gone on, I believe, to Rutgers. So there's some talent there. Roydell Williams is coming back. Cam Davis. We just got Usman Kroma. But I'm of the mind that I would like to get a starting running back. And Rasul Faison is one of the top guys left, 5'11", 200 pounds. Ran for almost 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, et cetera, et cetera. We told y'all all about that. But they do get his first visit, which in the portal is what it's all about. He's going to be here tomorrow. Or not here, I'm in Pensacola. But he's going to be in Tallahassee tomorrow. So we'll go around the horn. Deshaun, VC, James, and then Doug. Thoughts on Rasul Faison? I think if I had a crystal ball in my pocket, I'd probably put it on us for him. But how are you feeling? You think they really go after him and get him in the Class D?
I mean, they're bringing him on campus, so it's obviously some interest. Me personally, I'm settled with what we have, unless it's one of those game changers type backs. He could be considered that. It's a hot commodity, of course. A lot of other programs are interested. Looked a little bit at his film, or as far as his game highlights, and he seems to be steady, shifty back, your typical kind of guy that I think Gus kind of likes to utilize. Not much of a hands guy as far as catching out of the backfield, but as far as straight running, yeah, I could see where he could fit the system, or Gus's system. It's basically just run the ball, hit the hole kind of situation with him. But as far as anything else with him, I just stand on how I feel about it. I like what we have in the room, but he is one guy that could help. So I'm take everybody you can get.
What do you think, Vince?
Yeah, I'd probably go with Deshaun on this. I mean, they're bringing him in, so they have a desire, I guess. But if it doesn't work out, I'm okay with that. I mean, we've got even though Roydell didn't have the greatest season, he's a seasoned guy. He's going to be back. Cam Davis got a lot of run toward the end of the season. Mekhi Danzy was someone just mentioned in the chat here. I mean, we've got a lot of capability there, and with a revamped line, I mean, I don't know that unless somebody's going to be a game changer, we're going to pay dollars for that. Then I'm kind of good with what we have.
Here's my thing, and I'll just kick it to James. But it's going to come down to what the offensive line does. I don't think there's anybody in our room besides possibly Kroma coming in that'll supersede like a bad offensive line and possibly be this game changer. We'll see how that goes. But for me, with him coming in here, it's just somebody that we have tape of taking the ball and not fumbling it and just being a floor for your program and being somebody that could bring whoever that is, Cam Davis, Micah Hyde, maybe start the season with him and get them to where they take off. But what do you think, James?
I mean, embarrassment of riches, but I mean, he's obviously a talented back. But I think what you got with Cam, especially letting him get healthy, what you're bringing in. If they're going to bring in another back, I would prefer to bring in the 3-star that they had committed to UCF. If he matches what your style is, and you're already talking about bringing in some high school recruits. More so from a perspective of I want to be able to brag a little bit about high school recruiting, because I did the numbers. If we bring in the 3 to 4 of the guys that we have a shot at getting, we'll be a top 15 class after going 2-10, and that would be some stuff to kind of negate the Mike can't recruit high school bullshit. But when you look at Usman Kroma, I probably hope I said his name right. I just know I've never seen anybody that bow-legged be able to be as effective as he is. Like, if anybody wants to know what his running style is like, just take your feet right now, roll all the way on your right side of your right foot, and roll all the way on the left side of your left foot, and then just go walk to your bathroom. And that's how this young man, I don't know how he does it, but like, he's amazing. I can't wait to see him. I think Cam getting a little bit more seasoning. People always talk about like how his vision was lacking, but what they don't realize is when he played quarterback in high school, so you get in that direct snap, you're able to see and control a little bit more. You're in the control of the guy leading you on the path, which is the handoff, and then you've got to be able to see blocks set up. It's going to take a little bit of time for that to be able to matriculate. But all I know is this: there have been 3 Florida State high school alumnus that attended the Florida State previously. All 3 got an opportunity to go to the NFL. So what I'm looking forward to is the 4th Florida State high school alumnus and Mekhi Danzy being able to do that next thing, even though I personally think Mekhi is probably more suited at the slot receiver. And we saw him do that during the season, saw him run a wheel route and be able to be, because he's so explosive. You got elite track speed. You can't coach that up. And I think Roy Dell got banged up, and I think a lot of people just don't, because of the hype that bringing him in an Alabama guy and it just didn't pan out the manner in which we wanted it to. I think we're going to be fine. But also, Mega Mind's little brother, Mighty Mouse, Jalen Luke, is also going to be one, especially if he comes back fully recovered and healthy. So that running back room is crazy. But if you do get an opportunity to bring in a guy like that, Yak will probably continue to have a running back by committee situation, which does help keep your body fresh for the NFL. So I'm cool with the running backs.
Look, James makes a lot of good points, and the bottom line is with Azariah Thomas leaving, the running back room is the best of the returning rooms as a whole on the team. And we all know how bad the line has been. It's been well documented. But what I would say is I was sorely disappointed in the failure of our current backs to break an 80-yard touchdown run. I mean, even with a poor line, when you get 100 chances, 50 chances, at least one of the times you're going to get lucky and find the hole and break it. And I don't know what is going on with Cam and his injuries and with the other players, but I mean, Cam is built like a bowling ball. He's a truck. He should be knocking people out of the way. And I just didn't see that on a single run this year. Maybe with some more maturity, it gets better. Maybe with some more time in the system and better plays and better line play, we'll see that turn around. But especially after being spoon-fed how great our line was last year, I don't care about prognostication anymore. I want to see what gets done. And bringing in somebody that's not a returning running back, if they're a home run hitter and if they're going to be RB1, is great, because I see a whole lot of RB2s and RB3s on a roster, but I don't see an RB1 that's ready to carry the load.
I tend to agree with Doug, but we'll see. And great points by both of you guys. And in the chat also, if you remember Cam Akers, as to James said, in that running style and figuring out at running back versus quarterback, his first year, he had a lot better offensive line than we had now, but he would lose his footing. Like, he would have these wide open, to Doug's point, where you would go for a home run and he would just lose his balance and fall down. Like, so there's history there, and it could happen for Cam. But I guess that's just where I am on just maybe a steadying presence from somebody who's done it. But yeah, get moving along. Caleb Loveley is a guy that not a ton of stats when you look at portal people. He's a linebacker. From UNC, he got his first start in the bowl game against Connecticut. People on the timeline really fired up because in his first start, he had 8 tackles, pass defense, really looked like a general out there, like the best player for North Carolina in that game. To go alongside Blake Nicholson, Juice Cryer, I believe he's already got 3 crystal balls from the sites and stuff like that. So really curious how everybody thinks about him real quick. He's another guy that will be here tomorrow for a visit.
1.5 tackles for loss, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
1.5 tackles for loss, and that's impressive in a game. And look, Juice Cryer is the top of the food chain coming back. I love the leadership that he was showing last year as a true freshman. I really think that he's the guy to build around. So anybody that's going to help him and his game, I think, is a big asset. Again, we got away from proven players. Jason Staples did a great job. Doc Staples did a great job breaking down the importance of having players that actually played and had reps versus people with ceilings. If we sprinkle in a few players that have a high ceiling and don't have a lot of reps, that's fine. But as a dominant transfer portal program, we need to be emphasizing those players that have actually produced first and then coach them up.
The next guy on the list, another linebacker coming in. We can talk about both of them at the time, and we'll go to James next. Marquise Watson Trent fits what Doug's saying better there. 5'11", 220, 1 year left. But he was the 2024 Southern Belt Defensive Player of the Year, 120 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, a sack and a half, 4 forced fumbles, 1 pass breakup. A guy that could come in there and really be a motor in there. How are you feeling, James, on the linebacker room and about these 2 recruits they got coming in tomorrow?
I mean, I'm with it. I mean, if you watch that North Carolina UConn game, you saw that Pilgrim go off, man. Again, you got my cap. Cold ass Pilgrim. I'm all for it, man. Like, bring me in. Guys don't know about Bush. Like, some of you guys aren't real. I mean, not saying you aren't real fans. You haven't been alive long enough to really understand. We've had some really good white linebackers in our time. Like, the problem is just you got Derek Brooks, Marvin Jones, Ernie Sims. You got a lot of really, really other good guys, but he's reckless. He plays fast, but I like the guy from Georgia State. If I'm thinking correctly. What I don't like is, again, anybody who watches me know I have a hesitation to cheer for men with 2 last names. And there's nothing wrong with women. I get it. That's more of a female trait. It's not like, it's just, you got to pick one. Be a man. Decide which name you want to go by, and then we go from there. Especially in my linebackers, but he might have been picked on his whole life, and he might be coming down. He's got the stats. So one thing I'll say is this, and this is not I don't like kicking guys when they're on their way out. Utmost respect for Randy Shannon. My high school was on Florida State's campus. I remember Randy Shannon came and decked out in Miami Hurricane gear and came and recruited me on my high school campus. It actually still hurts my eyes to see him in Garden and Gold for the amount of respect that I have of him as a Hurricane. But our linebacker room, left something to be desired. And there was a lot of guys that were developmental guys. And, I think we need some guys that could be ball players. But to what Doug said that Staples talked about, and I had talked about this early in the season after discussing with some of my friends in recruiting. The difference between that 2023 portal class that we went and got guys that played. We went and got guys that were starters, like premium guys, your Keon Coleman's, your Braden Fisk. No matter where you felt like they were at, they were still the top dog at their school. And then they came here to fight for that similar position. Last year, we brought in a bunch of guys that had potential in projects. And it worked in 2022. It just didn't work. It was too many variables. You didn't have anything consistently. But I like seeing, Lavalier or Lavalier, whatever, the Cavalier, Love a Lamp, no matter what his name. I'm getting the name right. But I like it. I like, you add him, you get Blake Nicholson another year developed. You get some of these guys, really playing fast and downhill. And I think if you don't listen to anybody, he's got 31 days of Crow or whatever. Go listen to Cromartie. Like, you can go back on my show where he broke down the 3-3-5 and why it's effective and what you can do. And you need backers that can just go and then play with their hair on fire. And I like that. So if we can confuse the offensive line and get guys that can actually tackle, I'm cool with that. But our linebacker room definitely needed a shot in the ass because it's been mid. And I think nephew and I can't think of my guy's name. Tatum and Tatum Bethune really were just. I think it's sad that they weren't drafted higher. Like, they were that good that they just made up for everything else and on a 13-0 team. So, but I like him
Adam Fuller
better than nothing
for them too. The response, whatever it is, they could have made him. They could have made them shine much more. But we won't get into that. Like you said, we're not going to pee on anybody's grave. What do you guys think about the linebackers, Vince?
Throw bodies at it for sure. It's been terrible to watch a lot of the time. And Tatum and Kalen, they masked a lot of things. So throwing bodies at it. Now the guy from North Carolina, he had a great game, but what does that mean long term? I don't really know. I mean, you'd say a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. That may be the one nut that he finds, but you know, I think you gotta go with that because we haven't had much. So I think throwing more bodies at it is the way we got to do it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could get Marcus Watson Trent to go along with him to have, Stephon, the linebacker we already have signed, one with, that was already a decoy, and then somebody with a little bit of a future. And Omar Graham Jr., we can't forget about him at the end of the year. He was right up there. He was probably playing the best at the very end of the season. But, of course, I do agree with Doug that Juice was probably the most consistent and the best player overall throughout the year. But Deshaun, what are your thoughts before we move on? I know everybody's pretty much covered it.
Well, seeing Tony White at Nebraska, they shuffled in a lot of guys in that system. For me, I would like both. With Trent, you're going to get production. You're going to get a hard worker because his background was, I believe, a walk-on. It took him a little while to get up there. He's an effort guy, but he gets and finishes plays. A little undersized at 5'11", 225, I believe. But in this defense, you need guys that's going to be able to see ball, hit ball, float the ball. As far as the kid from North Carolina, as everyone has already stated, there's potential there. And he has a longer ceiling as far as his time, but he's had 3 years of eligibility. So there's some development that can go there with him. And then you team him up, and I'll throw out with Reggie Herring, Paul McGowan, Ty Rebo, Daryl Bush, Kirk Carruthers. It's been a little over 30 years since we had some YCs at linebacker. So, it'd be nice to mix them in with Blake. So it's been a little while if you think about it. They had a good YC at linebacker in a little while, and we've had some good ones. So
hey, between Iowa State and BYU and him in that North Carolina game, us YCs, man, they've been on a run in the year. And there's also Elijah Herring. Don't have a date locked down, but he's somebody that they're still after, trying to get on a visit. If I'm not mistaken, they might have already had him in on one earlier. But, yeah, if we can get 2 or 3 of those guys, I'd be super pumped up. And also, we'll just go.
I got to run before you head out. Y'all have a very happy New Year. Congratulations again. We'll see y'all in 2025.
Thanks for joining, Doug. We'll see you Friday, bro.
Enjoy your Great Gatsby New Year's Eve.
See you, man. Bye.
All right.
Oh man, I hope he's careful in that yellow hot rod, and you don't get any wrecks out there, Doug. If you're still listening, make sure you call the tow truck. Don't be running no chicks over in front of no gas stations and no shit like that. For the people that read the Gate Gatsby, but Monty Diggs is another guy. He'll be on campus. What's today? Tuesday, Thursday. 6'5", 260, fourth-year senior. 34 tackles, 5 sacks, 2 pass breakups this year. And then another guy, the defensive lineman that we've talked about a bunch on here, Jason Jenkins, 6'6", 280 pounds, fourth-year junior. Not a ton of production, but was a space eater in that Tennessee defense. What do you think about these two guys getting on campus as we start to get towards the end of all these transfer portal guys, and we can get into the high school guys that James was excited about?
I'll start then. This is much like what Vince said. You're throwing bodies at the situation, at the problem. It's depending on what you're asking him to do. With Jenkins, space eater, you're asking him basically either set the edge, eat up space to keep those linebackers free, allow them to scrape, move to the ball flow. With the other cat, I don't know. I didn't watch anything on him, so I don't know if they're asking him to stand up and rush or if he's going to be a much more of an edge setter. But I mean, it's same thing as Vince has already said. This is a situation where you're trying to get bodies to free up. And I'm thinking about Nebraska 2 years ago when Tony White first got there. It was much more, their defense was solid, but it was about effort. So they're looking for guys that's effort. The first thing you got to have is effort. That was a problem that we looked at with certain players on the roster this past season, effort. If you get guys that want to, to demonstrate effort, then we can do the teaching part and get that. But if there's no effort there, and there's a lackluster or will to not even want to play or contribute or play hard, then that's the biggest obstacle. So I'm looking at these two guys as just bodies, 1, 2 effort guys that are flow in the system, operate within the system, and just execution. You're looking for guys that just be able to execute the system.
Definitely agree with that. Anything is better than some of the effort we got to. I mean, really, especially on defense, like defense, I need guys with, again, I just speak from a different perspective, man. Like, I could give you all of the analyticals and like all the technical stuff, but I just need guys. I don't want great guys. Excuse me, I don't want good guys. I want great men. Good men ain't great, and great men ain't good. Like, I don't want nobody who's just I don't want nobody described as a good kid. I want guys out there, when I see them play, that like, they're either hustling to get their next meal or they need a positive male role model in their life. And that's what their coach is for. Like, I need Pitts, that, pretty Pitt. If you don't know who the owner is, you're terrified. Like, and that's what I need these guys to be out there going out and doing. And when you watch some of these guys film, it's violence. You can see the traits. I know, again, no shots, but I know Shea Tree Jr. was raised right in that capacity. I've hung with his father, and I've seen his father play. And, we just needed that, a little bit more of that. We saw Pat Payton, and like my boy CJ post a clip. I'm like, it's a run play. Why is he dropping back in coverage? Like, what's going on here? Like, it's just some things that we were our level of expectation for some guys. And it was so bad, especially on the edges, that we probably critiqued two guys in the interior a little bit unfairly. Everybody has a bad play, but we probably were a little bit more unfair to Darrell Jackson and Josh Farmer at times. But when you actually sat back and you watched, those guys' level of play was violent. It was the outside edges that we just weren't really getting that. And then when you look at what we didn't really recruit, what we got rid of, they're going to be bringing in and throwing bodies and guys who understand what it is that they're looking for. And again, in that 3-3-5, we're no longer looking for those just the 6'5", 260 guy. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be 6'5", you got to be 280.
Yes, sir.
Or we're going to have to get you more like a DeMarcus Walker style guy, somebody that can really, is more so about setting the edge, commanding if you got three guys commanding the double team, your linebackers can just flow, and you can just bring them from wherever you want to bring them. So I think, again, like I said, I like them. I want us to continue to kick tires and bring more guys back. But again, I want guys who embody what the coaches are talking about. So Pot Roast loves doing the Suge Knight Death Row Records thing. I need death.
Yeah.
It might not we might not be doing Habitat Humanity houses, and we might get back a little bit more. But those 90s teams, we just didn't, in the 2000s teams, we just didn't have social media. Yeah. There was a lot of reckless abandon. And Bobby Bowden quote here: I need guys who play with play with reckless abandon and total disregard for personal safety. That's what I want on my defense. So Hellraiser.
Yeah, I mean, you can't teach the want to, I don't think. And it's not hereditary. So even though I wanted Junior to be, great like his dad, you just don't, it doesn't go through the genes, right? So but they're speed dating now, right? That's what they're doing. They're speed dating, they're trying out, and they're seeing if these guys have that. Because I really don't think you can teach that. Either you have it or you don't. But if you have it and you have some ability, then I think they can put it, they can pull it out of you. Like, they can put you in the right spots for you to be hell on wheels, for you to be the havoc man. So when they're doing their speed dating, hopefully they are asking the right questions to be able, or having the right discussions to be able to determine whether these guys have it within them.
And I think the mixture of Odell being able to, coach the guys up, and Terrence Knighton being able to identify that dog in this younger generation and his kind of track record. I agree. And I also agree with James, like that Georgia Tech game, I think left a sorry taste in everybody's mouth. And I don't think anybody realized how good that Georgia Tech offensive line and that run game and all was going to be when they kind of because the inside was getting pushed back in that game. But the rest of the year, really Farmer and DJJ were your best guys on defense, outside of your corners, of course, and AZ and stuff like that. But yeah, I
also want to put a caveat to it. Like you can't be giving up top to strangers. Like we got a time of possession, we got our asses whooped by a majority of the team. So, and that's not just on the defense. Like I mean, that it's nothing.
Yeah, oh yeah,
nothing is worse than you just got you just had a long drive and you gave up a touchdown, and your coaches can't even coach you because in less than 2 minutes, first team D back up, like get ready. It's just again, I want to always put things in perspective because again, I think a lot of our fan base. We love to. Again, I'm an unapologetic Adam Fuller fan, but I do think it's very difficult to correct guys who made mistakes and correct attitude adjustments when you don't have enough time to correct it. Like, so I think us not being able to sustain drives really, it was no complimentary football. We got to have more complimentary football. So
there's definitely a lot of blame to go around.
Yeah.
When I look at the play of that room, I'm probably more comfortable with that than any room. Sorry to cut you off, Nancy.
No, go ahead.
No, I said it. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like the losses, I can critique and look at the defense and go, yeah, that effort didn't look great. But then I have to also, juxtapose that with, okay, they've been on the field for 45 minutes, and how much can you really take before you start saying, why am I even out here doing this? We're not making any progress at all. But that's what I'm saying. Like the people that they're speed dating now, and I keep saying that, those guys that have that mentality, it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether, the offense has done anything or not. It's like, I'm going to dominate this particular play. And that's what I'm here to do because it's within me and that's who I am. Because we know the offense isn't going to be, turned around like 180, like all of a sudden. Right. So that's what I'm hoping for is that, with these, when we're out there and bringing in guys for the coaches to talk to, and is this the right fit for them? That they find obviously, some great players, but also some guys that just have some nastiness to them that are not going to accept anything else except dominating play in and play out. And I think that's rare. I think it's rare.
No doubts. It's impossible. And we talked about this a lot, like with as bad as the O-line and the offense was overall, it's just so hard to grade and kind of judge who is this and that outside of a Patrick Payton, like obviously not giving effort and all the things. Like I really believe in the clay they have to work with that's left on the D-line, and if you can get a couple guys in to, again, raise that floor, maybe bring that attitude, I would love it. We'll go over these last couple guys, and we'll see if James pops back up and we get into the high school stuff. If not, we'll get into it either way. Traylon Ray, a guy, believes, he's going to be here on the 3rd. Him along with True Edwards, who I'm not sure they have an exact date locked in. One 6'1", 195. Edwards 6'3", 201 pounds. Both productive. And with what we saw with our wide receivers, like we know there's talent there. We've brought in talent. We've got a bunch of really young guys, a couple guys that are just going to catch the ball. They've shown when they're open, it doesn't really matter what level you are. When you're open and the ball is thrown to you at that point in time, you just either can catch the damn thing or not. And especially True Edwards, you talked about the genes. He's got the genes. His dad was a Blitnikoff winner. And, here he is. He had the 77 catches for 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. So I don't know if we get both of these guys. I would probably take Edwards personally over Traylon Ray, but Traylon Ray is a native. But what do you think, Sean?
I agree with you. Stat wise, I mean, you're looking at his numbers just this season: 85 catches, 900, almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. You're looking for his fit in the system and understanding Gus's system is he's definitely, it's no different than some of the philosophies Mike has. They're going to take shots, so they're going to need someone to stretch the field. You got guys that are trees to be able to block on the perimeter and also catch over the middle. You have your tight ends, which uses his tight ends in so many vast ways. A lot of blocking. They're going to operate like fullbacks. With True Edwards, he's definitely a field stretcher. You definitely probably can run a lot of fly sweeps and motions with him. The same way I see Mike Adanzi being fit in that role, or Jalen Lucas. As far as Traylon Ray, similar things. It's just the production is not as much this season is true, but it's the same thing. That's what I actually think that they're being brought in to be: a field stretcher, someone to take the top off, to keep the safeties honest so that they can run the football. That's what it is. It's the threat, to keep the threat of that. What do we face a lot of this season? 9-10 men in the box, because we didn't have no time, but we also didn't have no vertical threat. Jaylen Brown is fast, but you couldn't rely on the hands.
Yep.
You had guys that could stretch the field, but we couldn't rely on the hands, and the quarterbacks didn't have time. So one, you got to buy your quarterback time. Two, you got to have a guy that's going to be able to run a solid route, get vertical, and get the ball down the field. Thomas Castellanos' issue is not in the passing game. It's not the ability to throw the ball down the field. It's when we get into the intermediate stuff that they're going to have to work on. But if you can run the football, it sets up the strengths of the offense. No matter what system it is, Gus's system and whoever came under him, it's the same philosophy. Set up the run, throw shot plays. These are the guys that fit that criteria.
Yeah, you already got Deuce in, and to y'all's point and my point, if Gus can scheme you wide open or in man coverage and the ball comes to you, will you catch it? And a couple guys that I definitely think will do that. And we got some young guys who I think will, that just it was hard for them to get on the field, and Lane McCoy, Elijah Moore, and stuff. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Was there any?
One more thing to add, George, is you said scheme with Gus. That was one problem too. We got to have guys that don't have to be relied to get schemed open. Can they get open by route technique, footwork? They're looking for guys. Deuce, his physicality allow him to get open simply because he's a big physical guy. Person like True Edwards, route running, ability to go vertical. Same with Traylon, being able to get vertical. You're looking for receivers that can get open without having to be schemed, because you can't scheme everyone open or free. You're going to have to be able to beat your man.
Yeah, no doubt. That's absolutely true. After the year we watched, it was like our expectations have lowered so high. It's like, at least catch it when you are schemed open, for Christ's sake. Excuse my language. Not to take the Lord's name in vain. I apologize to you, Lord. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's been pretty amazing. We were up to number 6. We may have dropped because we haven't had a couple commit in the last couple of days, but pretty sure we're still inside the top 10. And you've got, what did we just call out? 6, 8 possible guys they're bringing in. They're going to at least land 3 or 4. We've had a pretty good run. I think just about every single person we've put on a thumbnail on the show has ended up committed. So we'll see if they keep on going with that, and we can land the guys that are on there today. The next guy that's on the thumbnail is a high school guy that we talked about it. We knew he'd been in with them. They've been trying to get him. Zahir Mathis, either currently committed or was committed to Ohio State. Last visit was to them on October 25th, but opening that thing up, he's 6'6", 225 pounds. I think he is uncommitted because he's the highest ranked uncommitted defensive lineman on the board, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
The closer we get to this thing, the more I'm thinking, okay, now we got his first visit coming out of the dead period on the 5th, I believe it is. He's going to be here, or the 6th, something like that, when it opens up. It's kind of opposite in high school, so who knows if we can get him to commit. But what do you think? Are you moving closer to thinking we could land the kid? I mean, to go along with Tylon Lee and Kevin Wynn and the phenomenal job we did, you could get him. That would really shoot you up the board. Number 75 overall in the 247 composite.
If you're talking to me, for me, I'm kind of on the fence with this, just because I'm looking at the players we're going against, and he's from the Northeast area. So I'm looking at, Michigan, Ohio State's on his list. I'm not saying we don't have a shot, and we get to visit, you got to knock this visit out of the park, because we know Ohio State's going to be a player, even though he decommitted, and Michigan is definitely in this thing to win it. If you're looking at what they're doing
they got
behind
some
the scenes
momentum.
and what they're throwing out there too. Let's not forget the NIL factor. They are throwing it out there. They're willing to do whatever they need to do to get to right their ship, because even though they went 8-5, that's coming off a national championship. This is a down year. So, but as far as us, I mean, it really comes down to this visit. They have to change their philosophy, and whatever they were doing before, they got to change some things and be able to be able to find out exactly what this prospect, his interest, to get him locked in, and don't let him leave campus. Basically, they got to lock him down.
If he leaves campus and he's not locked down, they need to move on fast, because I'm not going to get my hopes up about. I want. Hey, I love it. I love it.
Exactly.
But until we start making that success, like succeeding in getting that high level out of the high school ranks immediately, I'm gonna assume that we're going to be second or third. And I don't like being second or third. That's not the way I was brought up with these colors, but that's the way it is right now. And so yeah, if he comes in and they lock it down, I'm still going to be a little worried. But if there's not even like a rumor of him committing, like I'm going to move on, and they should too. Hopefully they've learned their lesson. With that.
Yeah, I agree, but I will, kind of disagree a little bit. This isn't a 26 kid. This is a 25 kid. So who the fuck else are you going to recruit? So I would push it till signing day, but with the caveat of the maybe the end there is, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at Michigan and Ohio State's classes. Maybe he could be like kind of a star in our class and get we could get some amount that's up there, but no. On the outset, I do agree. It's going to be tough. It would be a surprise. That's why I've said, they keep blowing it up. They keep bringing it up on these national shows, and, he's got the visit locked in. So we'll see, but it's certainly a long shot kind of. And the next guy, the same one. I do not want to believe it at all. I think Ty Haywood is just kind of maybe we got a little momentum or whatever, but they keep saying it's Michigan, Florida State, two of the top guys. He's done with Alabama. He hasn't visited anybody since Alabama. Now he's doing these visits. What do y'all think? Y'all think we got a legit shot at the number 20 player in the country, or you think it's more just the FSU hat on the table?
Go ahead, Vince.
Gosh, I want to believe. It's like the Polar Express, man. I want to believe, but until it happens, I have a hard time. It's something that, and to go back to Zahir a little bit, one of the things that could be in our favor there is that, and I just looked this up because I couldn't remember. Michigan has quite a few on the roster already for that position, whereas we don't. So, or not as many. So that part could be inviting, and I don't know if Hay would be the same in terms of would he care? Would he care as much as, say, Zahir would in terms of how many people do I have to fight through?
Yeah, he could possibly be the third DN, coming out of the gate if he's that good kind of a guy, which, we'll see.
Exactly. But I'll believe, I mean, until they say no, I'm going to be optimistic to a degree.
I agree with you, Vince. The optimism will stay kind of at a 50-50. Haywood, I mean, it's like rolling shit uphill on this one, man. I'm gonna be honest. It's because it's just the track record. We have not had the track record of linemen. We have to get to that point where we're putting linemen in the league. Michigan puts linemen in the league, and it's kind of like you batting. It's hard because you're like swinging a baseball with a pencil. It's hard right now.
You got the guy who does have the track record. I guess the question for the kids is he going to be there for 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, that's part of it. Now, I get what you're saying. It's the individual coach in her hand has a track record, But when you look at the optics of the program as a
Yeah,
whole,
there's no doubt.
they're gonna, because that's what the kids are gonna, they're gonna build. Look at the relationship, but they're still gonna also measure it. Okay, this is a program that hasn't had a offensive lineman drafted in the first 3 rounds in quite some time, you know. So, and then he's looking at his other options, and they can just look into the last draft cycle, you know, and say, okay, they put 2-3. They got 4-5 guys on NFL rosters. Some are starting, you know. Then they got Hall of Famers at this position. It's so many, and it's not the kid or the prospect looking. It's what that opposite program can say, and whether it's negative or not. And it's tough. I like to believe, like Vince said, and I want to be optimistic. I'm not saying no shot, but it's a difficult battle. And if they pull it off, man, hey, it will show. It will prove a changing of the guard. It would, you know. Go ahead, Vince.
So think about how comfortable we are when we talk about recruiting the defensive backs, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we have a shot at every 5-star every year.
Yes, sir.
Because of our history and our program and the things that we've done, and you can look in the league and you can see it.
Yes.
We love that. But we are on the opposite side of the spectrum with the O-line. And it just, you know, unfortunately, it's going to take 1 or 2 top guys to say yes.
Yes.
And I think we can flip it then at that point. But until that happens, man, it's like you said, it's pushing uphill. It's pushing uphill.
We haven't done. Oh my God.
It's so easy for, you know, a 5-star offensive tackle to, you know, maybe Florida State has been, you know, their dream school their whole life, you know, but when it comes right down to it, and they look at the dollars and the legacy and the business side of it, you got to be some special kind of kid to say, no, forget all that. Florida State I'm going to be the change. I'm going to be the difference. And I think that's tough for an 18-year-old kid to do.
Yeah. I guess where the hope comes from, because everything, I agree with exactly what they're saying. I don't like to hear it. It hurts my feelings, but it's absolutely true. But I guess the hope would be, like, we've never seen Florida State get 2 6-foot, 350 guys out of the portal. Like, Florida State has never been able to grab a Micah Pettis or a Gunnar Hansen or anything close to it out of the portal. The closest thing to that was Bless Harris, and it wasn't anywhere near it. So maybe they can believe or whatever, but this would be a better conversation this time next year if Pettis and Hansen go out there and dominate. But yeah, I agree. The one guy that I do think they will end up getting, I've already said I'll put a crystal ball in it, just because he's with Herb Hand. You know, he was already committed to UCF, is Chasen Brown. And he's like number 300 something in the 247 rankings, the number 28 offensive tackle. But he has the frame. He's got the ability. The 6'7", he's 260 pounds, probably closer to 275 if I had to guess now. You know, committed to UCF. He's from Warner Robins, Georgia, so that fits in. And there's like been no smoke on him. He hasn't really said much except for tweeting about Florida State the past couple of weeks. Like, if you go to 247, everybody's cold on him but Florida State. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that Chasen Brown is somebody that we could get in this class and would be a nice pickup?
Yeah.
I
go ahead, Vince. Go ahead, Vince. Go.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, if he makes that decision, right, and he comes here, and let's just say next year is the turnaround, which I think is going to happen. I mean, I shudder to say it couldn't be worse, because you never know. But I have a feeling the running game is going to be significantly better next year. And then, like you said, George, we have a better opportunity than next year at this time for these kind of top 100 guys, because then they're looking at, you know, you're looking at an offensive line that's done a 180. You're looking at nastiness. You're looking at run game. You're looking at the things that these guys, like, that's what drives them. Like, they want to grind. They want to road grade. That's what they want to do. And I think Chasen making the decision this year, we have to turn around this year. You know, I'm not saying, you know, we're going to be top 10 running team. That's not what I'm saying. But if you make top 25, I mean, then you really have something to sell and say, yeah, this turnaround is in full swing.
I will add and just say, make sure I correct myself. I wasn't talking about long term. I was specifically talking about this cycle currently. And it speaks to what you said, George. You got to build those relationships. And then with this particular prospect here with Brown, that relationship, there is a relationship there with him in hand. This is the kind of prospect that you get that can set the stage for those future 5-star prospects to say, yeah, because he's a guy that can obviously has the frame to be molded into that NFL tackle prospect or that offensive line prospect. Then you start building that reputation. Okay, now they're putting, okay, this guy is going in the second round. Okay, they get another, you know, understand, and you just keep building and building and building and basically stacking classes by doing that. You're going to have to get some guys that you start with your forwards and your 3-star gems, which with the offensive line is hit or miss anyway. When you're talking about those prospects, there's only a handful of 5-star offensive linemen that are legitimately 5-star guys. And, you know, when you get those guys, you know who they are because they pop off the screen. And even then, sometimes they don't even work. So you look at your linemen that are typically drafted in the first round, second round, they're not always the 5-star prospect. They're always the 2 or 1-star guy that everyone that slipped under the radar and went to nobody's state, you know, typically, you know, so, and they get developed. So you got to start there. And we got the kind of coach now in Herb Hand that has a track record of doing that. He's been able to recruit guys from the top of the mountain and then been able to recruit guys and develop guys from being at the mid-tier level and put guys in the league from all levels. So that's a strength. You got a guy that knows what it looks like and what it's supposed to look, you know, where it's supposed to go and how to get there. So he has proof to sell where we didn't necessarily have that. So that also is a changer for the program.
Yeah, you're kind of selling a dream of what it could be and pointing at what you've done other places at this point. And I agree. Yeah, like I would bet everything on the planet that we make a significant jump in running rankings, you know, whether it ends up in the top 10 or we're this absolutely freak thing. All the FSU fans out there watching this year, it is going to look completely different than last year. That is a fact. To what level or how much more? Like, I don't think people realize, or I guess y'all do realize, like we had the worst offensive line in all of college football this year. We had the worst one. It was really, really, really bad. So like that's the biggest part of this whole thing is getting Hand in, and what they've got in the portal so far. These would all be pluses, but you know, Adrian Medley, Gunnar Hansen, Micah Pettis, big time guys that are going to help you sell that future. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got through all the players, I think, here as we're like 57 minutes into it. Guys, if you have any questions in the chat on this New Year's, make sure to throw them up there. I'll turn it over to Sean and then Vint. Anything on your mind, anything we haven't talked about that as it pertains to what we got going on. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be recruiting.
I'll add one thing about just the offensive line, just to because that's kind of where I like my bread is buttered, you know, like the line. It's the production that we get from the transfers will matter, but it's going to make a bigger mark if the kids that are still there, the Simmons, the Ottos, the Earlys, those players you start to see a trend and they start to develop, get on the field and be productive. If you see that's how you can actually speed that process up, because we're not counting on a Brown to come in and be able to contribute year one. But if you can get Lucas Simmons, Early, Otto, Hilton, those kids that are already on the roster that have already been in the weight room at least a year or 2 years, you start seeing production there. Then you know that can speed up the process to be able to get those in the next cycle. You're getting the higher rated linemen. So it's very important that what they do on the bench rotation, basically the backups, how they look is more important than these transfer linemen.
True. I think Jalen Early, Otto, those guys, I feel pretty good that whether it's Simmons or Early or Otto, one of those guys, I feel like Hand will be able to identify the people that can get something done. As you spoke to his history of taking lesser, higher players and doing it, I totally agree with you there. And it's like, if they're not, they won't see the field or they'll get down the road. That's kind of what was so big about this coaching staff, getting Gus and Hand in here, because it's just all they've ever done. It would be kind of Florida State in the year we've had if all that shit fell apart and it didn't happen for us the first time in 20 years. They don't have a top 25 rushing attack or whatever it is. But Vince, what do you got on your mind, my friend, or anything you want to plug as well? Guys, hit subscribe. I'm so terrible at paying the bills I never remember to say, well, hit like and subscribe. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, half of you guys that are watching right now, you aren't subscribed, because that's what it gets. The percentage is 50 and 49, 60, or, whatever. That's always what it is. So if you're not subscribed, you probably don't even realize it. There's people that have watched the show every day for 2 years that subscribed last night, because I actually remembered to say something about it on the roast. But yeah, hit that like, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the Daily Chop. That's THA Daily Chop. And also at Garnet and Old with Vince as well. And get us all up. Let's get everybody climbed up. Let's get them to 1,000, or let's get Deshaun to 1,000. Let's get Garnet and Old up to 3,000. Let's get everybody climbing. So what do you think, Vince? What do you got on your mind, friend?
Yeah, I'll just say what I say on my show, which is I don't care where you watch the show. You can watch it on X. I don't know, George, do you stream to all the platforms as well, or just on YouTube?
YouTube and X.
Okay. Yeah. So you can watch on X, but just jump over to YouTube briefly, just for one moment, and just go subscribe and hit the like button. It doesn't cost anything.
No.
And it really matters. I mean, it really, really matters. So, yeah. So George, first of all, I want to say, congratulations. Like 3,000 is like a major tier, brother. And you and I met a year and a half ago or whatever. And we joked about it before we came on air, that you came on our show during this spring game, and then James, kind of blamed me for the way the season because of that. But yeah, 3,000 is a big deal, and I'm just proud of you and proud of the work you've done. Deshaun, Jen, like anybody that's coming on your show, I mean, yeah, just kudos to you, brother. The only other thing that I probably wanted to talk about briefly is how the SEC has decided to not games. And I don't care either way, because I'm not a conference flag waver. I could care less whether Louisville won the game today. I don't care, because the only thing I care about is whether Florida State wins. And you could call me short-sighted in that. It's like, it matters whether your conference wins or not. The conference doesn't care about us, right? So why would I, put myself out there? I saw a tweet the other day. It was somebody showing a belt with all the SEC logos on the belt, like this weave belt.
They're the only ones.
Complaining about, like, why is Missouri even on this belt? It's like, why are you wearing that belt at all? Like, this conference waving stuff, it just drives me crazy. But anyway, Alabama decided to show us again why they didn't deserve to be in the playoff. And also, South Carolina showed us today they need to be in the playoff, or the pageant, I should call it. So, that's pretty much it. I just want to make sure I got that out there.
Yeah, it's freaking hilarious. Kirk getting hit by the community notes. It's like, oh, SEC is the best conference. Okay, sure. Not this year. Pretty sure it was the Big Ten, but in most years. But that doesn't mean that the 3 lost teams are supposed to be. You lose 3 like, goodness gracious, where does it end? And just for those teams to go down today, oh man. I mean, because South Carolina was supposed to be in, Bama was supposed to be in form to lose to equal or lesser teams from another conference. It really is beautiful. And you see why a person like David Pollock is no longer at ESPN, because he comes out and addresses it and says, oh, this is tough. But Kirk just gets on, just keeps denying it. It's like, it's ridiculous. When you go to the game rooms of these people, that's a Florida fan or a Vanderbilt fan, or they have a pennant for every SEC team around the game room. It's like, why? Don't you hate those teams? Like, I would never in a million years put a Duke pennant up or a Miami pennant up in my fucking game room. Like, it's insane.
And then I saw the picture of the Oklahoma band, which had flags for all of the SEC teams. David Plack, my brother, do not ever do that with the Chiefs.
Could you imagine? Clemson and Miami fan flags flying.
I'm a band guy, so when I saw that, I just laughed on the tweet. I just laughed. Oklahoma's barely even in the conference, and they are promoting, like they're flying flags for all the other schools. It's dumb. It's just weird, man. It's really weird.
Could not agree more.
You realize that Michigan's quarterback today threw for 73 yards. This is, I mean, Alabama has ended its season both times playing Michigan and actually getting beat at their own game. To those Alabama fans, I say it because I kind of live in Alabama country where I'm located in Georgia, about maybe 45 minutes from Auburn. We told you this was coming because you should listen to FSU fans when we tell you this. When it's hard to follow a legend, when legends have to retire, move on, this is what you see. A lot of Alabama fans came on after the Nick dynasty started. They don't remember Alabama before Nick. A lot of us older people do, and it's a hard pill to swallow for them. But they're going to get a reality check. Doesn't mean they're going to be a bad program, but it does. But the last 15, 16 years of dominance are over. We saw it already tail off at the end of Nick's career. You're going to see more of that now, and even with the SEC, you're starting even to see kinks with Georgia, and I think what's playing a part with that with Georgia. It's just the landscape of college football in general. The NFL, the NFL development, I mean, the NFL model, you get more parity because the rosters can't be overly stacked with 5- and 4-star talent or hidden gems, because you're going to, more of those gems are going to end up going to more G5 programs, in my opinion. Then you got all these other things, but I'm not going to get into that. But with the Georgias, you see it. You see a situation where they got a quarterback issue now. And me personally, I've already put my pick in. I think Notre Dame's going to beat Georgia. I think Notre Dame has the type of roster built to do it. They can match them physically. But just talking in general about the SEC, this is just more propaganda that I'm not angry with it overall because it's smart. It's marketing. It's Americana. It's a part of the capital. It's part of the system that we all operate in. We cannot like it. We just have to learn how to play the game better than they did.
Yeah. I'm not going to say whether I like it or don't. It doesn't. The only thing that makes it nauseating is that you've got the major media partner that's in bed with it all, and that makes it infinitely more difficult.
Yeah.
For every other league, right? Because it's a constant commercial. And even when things aren't going well for them, they find a way to paint it in a way that doesn't promote the other side. It just points out, the goodness of that side. So, but we live in 2024, almost 2025. We know that the information we get is not real most of the time.
Yes.
Right. We know that as intelligent people, and social media often doesn't, bring the intelligence to the forefront. But that's why it's up to people that have some kind of following, George, like you, Deshaun, like you, to point out things that are ridiculous, because there are people out there that need to have a little bit of the real world thrown into their life. The SEC is the best of the conferences in the last 20-25 years. I have no problem saying that.
Nope.
But to say that, the 12th place team in the SEC would have no problem beating, the first place team in every other league just because of the patch they wear, it's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
So, it's just ridiculous.
It
so,
is.
You hit the nail on the head of my point with that, and that's what's so great about what happened today. Hopefully Notre Dame beats UGA, because what that does is pushes another big patch of people away from listening to ESPN and to us, or whoever the case may be, other media. Because that's the problem, is the conflict of interest. As soon as ESPN got a hold of the SEC and then the college football playoff, oh man, it's just a giant conflict of interest. But when it worked last year, Herb Street got Bama in Texas Florida State got snubbed. But now this year, everybody else from every other conference is calling a spade a spade. And to your point, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, you watch the show and they say all that shit. And for every reason they gave, those teams should be in. They throw it all out the window and they pick Miami and Colorado. No ranked wins against teams who had ranked wins and more wins. It's like, what the fuck? That's everything he said. And then he picks Michigan today, and you think that gets him off the hook. Like, oh, what the fuck? I mean, Illinois, look what Illinois did to South Carolina. Oh, I never said that. It's like, no, you literally, there's a clip of you saying Illinois should not have been in. And Illinois beat Michigan with their 4 first-rounders. So it's like, it's crazy. So he helped us out big time. There's no doubt. And hopefully more and more people don't buy into it and can see it for what it is. Politicking or,
Thank you. That's
where your money, where your mouth is.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't even blame the common people.
No.
I don't even blame the SEC fans, like the conference fans, because that's all they've been fed. They've been in this echo chamber for, as long as social media has been around. And
preaching, man.
But I offer you that there are other things out there. If we have any SEC fans here watching the show tonight, I offer to you that the college football world doesn't have to revolve
around you.
Around it just means more. And it shouldn't. And it shouldn't. So, they can take their ball and go home if they want and enjoy. But the rest of us that love college football as a whole understand that every year is different, and every league is different every year. And you don't have to be the end all beat all every year for you to be able to wear your belt with pride. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Like if you go undefeated or have one loss in the SEC, chances are you're the best or one of the best teams in the country. I might push back on Texas because of their schedule. They just got lucky. Sometimes that happens. Georgia last year had an easy run up to the end. Okay. But 3 losses, fucking national championship teams, they don't lose 3 games. Like if you lost 3, chances are you're going to lose the 4th. And especially on 6 and 6 teams. So that's just, it got so ridiculous there. I hope going forward that you have to at least, only lose 1 or 2 games to get the whatever, dick riding or politicking or whatever, because it's just such a wild degree.
I'll add to it, George, and something I want to piggyback off you, Vince. It's a dangerous game. It really is, because you're creating basically a monopoly in the way you're doing things. But I'll add for our viewers, and I'll share with our viewers, if you, going by what Kirk Herbstreit said originally about the Indianas and the SMUs, you don't have the birth of the Miami dynasty of the 80s, because they would have never belonged with a program like Nebraska, because they weren't a blue blood. Yep. You don't get BYU in 86. You don't get Georgia Tech in 90. You don't get Washington in 91. You don't get these and even some of these more blue bloods, they had to start somewhere. You don't get the birth of other programs. Our program, the same thing. You don't get those. If we never get that opportunity, if you say, well, they don't belong. Because it was at one time, Florida State didn't belong. And I'm not talking about what was said last year. I'm talking about historically. The Miamis didn't belong. It's other programs. Oregon, who's grown into a consistent program. At one time, they said they didn't belong. It's when they use that narrative, you're basically being counterproductive to the very tradition and pageantry that is college football. You get up and it's really been instilled into a generation of fans now that if you don't make the playoff, if you're 8-5, you're nothing. If you don't make the playoff, your program is nothing. And it's really sad because you've taken out some of the things that separated the college game from the pro game. And it's not, I mean, the pro game has rivalries. Dallas, Philly, the Eagles, the old NFC, the NFC East, the NFC West, all of those matchups, Raiders, Chiefs. But that has nothing compared to Michigan, Ohio State, or Texas, Oklahoma. That matters, but it had to start somewhere. And what it seems that they're doing with their narrative is basically telling all the other programs outside of this program, because they got bold enough to tell the Big Ten you weren't worthy. Because India, I'm scratching my head with him saying what he said about India. They're in the Big Ten.
Yep.
They did.
And it's not their fault. Michigan had a bad year.
Yeah.
Right? That you can only play the teams that are on your schedule.
And they couldn't control their schedule either, Vince.
And they couldn't control their schedule. So, and they legitimately, Sankey said this. One of these things is not like the other.
Mm-hmm.
What are we even talking about?
Yes.
Right? College football is not supposed to be the pros.
No.
It's just not. And we are inching closer and closer and closer to that. And somebody asked me one time, well, you're going to change they said you're going to change your tune once Florida State gets in the SEC or the Big Ten.
No,
I'm not.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Because, I'm going to root for Arizona State,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to root for Boise. Isn't Boise playing tonight?
Yes, Boise, Penn State. Yes,
right. And
mm-hmm.
I love Penn State. Penn State
yes.
probably would have been the school that I would have gone to had I not moved to Florida when I was 10 years old.
Yep.
Right. So
mm-hmm.
they were my other school. My family was big Penn State fans, but I'm going to root against them tonight. So I just love the fact that that there are different teams and
mm-hmm.
teams that aren't supposed to be there, and
uh-huh.
teams that belong. That is what college football should be, and hopefully we get a chance to see some more of the just means more. The head and shoulders conference.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully more of those their seasons end in the next day or two.
No doubt. And to piggyback on the NFL thing,
mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, the most infuriating part about this is the point both of y'all already made. There's more parity than ever, and they're
yes.
trying to make out that the SEC is better than ever and more farther ahead of everybody, when it's just not. Like, even when you look at Indiana's schedule, whoa, there was a bunch of 500 and 7-5 teams on there. Well, yeah, same thing in the SEC. But when you lose to them, it's a fucking gauntlet. And the only reason they're 500 is because they played all these SEC teams. Well, we're finding out right now that maybe the Big Ten was actually better than the SEC. And that Indiana schedule was a little tougher than it looks on paper. And that going 11-1 is just tough. And 9-3 Illinois equals 9-3 South Carolina, even though they were the hottest of all the SEC 9-3 teams at the end of the year. And in the NFL, so I agree, I don't want it to be the NFL, but to me, it's even worse. Because in the NFL, even if the best 6 fucking teams are in the AFC, you don't just keep the NFC out of the fucking playoffs.
Yeah.
The division winners still get in. Like, yeah, you get a wild card, to get a chance, even if he was second place in his division. But goodness gracious. And again, love you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. Shout out Plant the Spear. Go follow that channel as well. He didn't get to make it in. He was going to try and make it in. Jen has a New Year's party with her daughters and a bunch of kids coming over. So she was going to try to make it in, didn't make it in, but we love her. Thank you to Jen. Shout out Spear Addicts. He's working. He didn't get to make it in, but another guy just like James who's had my back since day one. Make sure you go follow Spear Addicts. Again, the Daily Chop. Again, Garnet Old. Deshaun Adams 18 on Twitter. VC Knoll on Twitter. Renegade Report 1 on Twitter. Thank you to 300 people in here. We love you guys. We're going to keep doing this thing. We got big plans. New age media is a thing that, between all the channels, a lot of them I mentioned, with us helping each other out, Dope Talk, as well as another independent FSU podcast and CJ Wilson, what he does. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun with this thing. And like we talked about, people are getting pushed more and more to the independents. Even some of the other things, we're not into breaking news despite the university and do this shit and stuff like that. So things are changing. How people get their information is changing. We're going to try to take advantage of that. And I'm lucky enough to have the friends. Shout out Doug. Thank you for coming on, James. Of course, my guy, VC Knoll. And Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
We'll let you go watch some college football playoffs. And I'll give Deshaun and VC Knoll Vince a chance to give their shout outs and we'll get out of here.
Well, once again, shout out to the Daily Chop, also D's Corner, DSCORNER, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year to everybody. You already mentioned it. It's VC Noel, and my co-host is Ryan. It's at Big Papa East. Big Papa East. We are doing a show on Thursday night. We try to do it no matter what, whether the team is good or bad or holidays. It doesn't matter. But you're right, George. There's room for all of the media, right? The big players, the new media. I just love the team. I love the school, and I love to talk about it, man. And that's why we're all here. So go Knowles.
Yes, sir. New age media. It's what it's all about. And yeah, there's some people, I won't mention names, that came on this show at the beginning, and whatever happens, they want to disagree and get mad. A rising tide raises all boats. Like, me and Deshaun don't have to agree. Me and Vince don't have to agree. But let's just have the conversation. And when two people disagree and you have different viewpoints and you get on there and you have the conversation, then the people can make their minds up. And that's what's beautiful about America. That's what's beautiful about this movement. And couldn't be more thankful to everybody. The list of players we've been able to have on this show is unreal. I can't believe it. Jen has done great with getting people. She's going to get Coach JB back on the roast. That's going to be a shit show. That'll be all kinds of fun here coming up soon. So make sure you watch that when it comes up. And I'll leave you guys with the intro to last night's Renegade Roast. And if you're here for a show like today, where it's just all the information on exactly what's going on with the portal guys and stuff like that, this isn't that show. The Renegade Roast is Mondays at 8:30 Eastern. It's everybody. It's all of college football gets the jokes, obviously from an FSU perspective, but it's not safe for work. It's unfiltered, but just a lot of fun. And after what happened to Miami in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, we didn't talk a lot on here a lot, but if you want to just laugh your ass off at some people, here's the intro, and we'll see you guys. What's today? Tuesday. Friday. We'll see you guys Friday with our guy Rohan Law back. We'll be back here with February 1st closing in quickly. We're going to start talking about that and what might could possibly happen, as ESPN, as we just told you, has been trying to devalue the hell out of the ACC. I doubt they extend them. But here we are signing off. Go Noles, baby.
Recruits in-state, out-of-state can now clearly see the trajectory of this program versus the trajectory of the other programs.
Because I'm going to have a stroke if I see Emory back there again, bro. I'm going to have a stroke if I see another fucking bump screen. I'm going to have a stroke if I see him throw the fucking ball into a D lineman hand, bro. This nigga going to put me on my deathbed.